Yeah, right. Shall we get into our pictures then? How many pictures you've got, Ben?
Um, I've got three, but
Hmm.
two of them are more just half-baked ideas. So there's one that I've gone like full on with.
Yeah, I've got one solid one an idea, and two sort of just make this movie type thing.
Yeah,
What? Yeah, I mean, usually we sort of pitch a plot, and then we pitch a cast, and then we pitch a director. I think this time, because we're basing it on different properties, we should pitch the whole pitch, uh, plot, cast, director for that film. Move on to the next idea, if that makes sense. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
um, I'll go first because there's one that I've got which is kind of just like get out of the way.
Okay,
Um,
go for it.
so I'll be honest, it's more of like, um, right, this is happening, right? Like this is confirmed. Maybe I should have mentioned this in the discussion,
All
but
right.
like it hasn't come out yet,
Hmm.
and I think it was like if it's even gonna happen, it would only be in like early pre-production. And that is Space Invaders the movie.
Oh, is there?
Um,
I didn't know that.
so I did a little bit of research.
Hmm.
This is coming via Deadline, which they wrote this in 2019.
All right.
And the movie, based on the 1978 arcade game, it's
Hmm.
being written by Greg Russo, who's written the new Mortal Kombat. Um,
Ah.
and Warner Bros. Owns the rights to Space Invaders, and the movie produced by New Line, who are doing Mortal Kombat as
Yeah.
well. Um, Other than that, that's all there is. I looked at some like a couple other websites, and they've said that they think it's probably be some like alien invasion movie akin to Independence Day, but with just like a few nods to
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
which I think would be fine. But like I'd started sort of like a pitch, and then found this out.
Yeah.
So I basically put that Space Invaders has the clear sort of classic narrative of fear of an outside force coming
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
fear of like, the unknown, and also also when I originally searched up on Google Space Invaders the movie, what came up was a 1990 sci-fi comedy called Spaced Invaders, which
Oh,
I'd never
never heard
heard
of it.
of.
No.
It's got a fantastic 8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
And and here's the synopsis that Google's given it. It says foolish aliens from Mars land into a town in Illinois on the day that the local radio station happens to rebroadcast Orson Welles' 1938 War of the Worlds.
Oh,
Sounds great.
creepy. Yeah, I mean,
um,
if you think about it, there are quite a few films that are pretty much Space Invaders esque
yeah.
anyway. You know, War of the Worlds, Independence Day. I don't know what made me think of it, but Battleship, which is
Mm,
Space Invaders, but we fight them with battleships.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man. Some of the films they've made, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah. But yeah, that film apparently it's got nothing to do with the game. It's clearly like the title is supposed to be a clear sort of rip
Cash
off.
grab.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, but I think maybe sort of if you gave the aliens a purpose,
Mm.
maybe like the invaders.
Yeah.
Um, I because again when I was researching this, I saw some of those weird images that you see of like the Simpsons and stuff where it's put into like real life, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some like real life space invaders look
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
They look like they could have been in like a Halo game or something.
Oh.
Um, but I think maybe flesh out like the aliens, their purpose, why they're invading, maybe,
Yeah.
and then give like a classic, your uh what am I thinking of? Like the army officer, similar to like John Cena in Bumblebee, who's got
Yeah.
to fight him off.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe just have it, yeah, like Bumblebee, where he's just come from a different planet, and then, but it's a space invader. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But then like nods to the game
Mm.
again. I think quite limited. Just have him shoot him out of the sky, and
Well,
I
I
think
think
Space Invaders turn up in pixels as well. I think.
Yeah, I think they might have. Yeah, they should make what they should do is like, have a tank with its turret pointing up, like, and then
Yeah,
that moves across. Like in the
yeah,
games, it's like a sort of tank that moves across, and the invaders coming out of the sky. They could even put these like shields up in the sky that they'd have to shoot in between, but they
mm,
probably won't do that because that's
no,
like
yeah,
in the upcoming one anyway. If we would pitch in one, that we'd probably say that, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. that's all I already had, because again I sort of started it and then found out that apparently it's actually coming.
Yeah.
But again, that's from a report from 2 years ago, and that's the like the most recent thing that's come out from it. So
Yeah.
I don't
What
know.
about you got any directors that you'd want to attach to it?
I hadn't really gone that far.
No.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know. Maybe someone that's done one before. So maybe
Well,
like,
maybe I would say, you said about Bumblebee. I'd say that's quite a good shout. I can't remember the director's name. Let me just look it up. But like in Bumblebee, obviously you see what like the planet he's come from
yeah,
and like what it's like on that planet. But they show it like really well. They don't show it like they did in the other Transformers films where it's big grey world and they all just look weird. No, it was like really colourful and really defined. And I remember at the time the interviews with the director, and he was like, he came from an animating background. He was an animator, so that's why
yeah,
he understood CGI so well and how to show expression on faces and stuff like that. And obviously, a film like this would be CGI. So I think he would be a good shout. Travis Knight, his name is.
Travis Knight. Yeah, because he was animated for Leica, I think. Who did
Yeah,
like
so
Coraline and stuff.
he animated on Kubo the Two Strings, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, Missing Link. He was a producer on. Yeah, he's done loads of things, loads of animated stuff, and yeah, I think Bumblebee. We said it at the top of the show. It's the best Transformers film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to get a sequel. So there you go. Yeah, no, I would say yeah. The only thing I want is a tank with the turret pointing up. That's pretty much it, or whatever that's called. I don't know. I don't know tanks very well. The big gun thing points up in the sky, get some like metal like shields across the planet, so like rotating round, and the aliens trying to shoot down into it, and they're making damages, and they go, oh, just shoot through the shields, man.
Yeah.
But then we're because that was what it's like in Space Invaders. If you shoot through your shields, you get a better shot at the enemy, but you put yourself at risk, and you could have that sort of come up in the movie. Yeah, and I think it's a good idea, and I hope they do actually do something with it, not just a cash grab. Oh, we're calling this Space Invaders because then people might see it. It's no, actually, do something unique with it. And fun fact, there was a Space Invaders reboot, I believe, on the PlayStation 2. I think it was Space Invaders. I think they attached Space Invaders to it. But you actually played as a soldier on the ground, and you'd go into like these alleyways in between like skyscrapers and buildings and stuff. And you go into alleyways, and they'd be coming down. Like the enemy troops would be coming towards you, and you would just run across the screen shooting at them. Look it up. I think it's on PlayStation 2 anyway. But it didn't get very good reviews, and they didn't make another one. So just an idea.
I guess you could have something similar to like the Shield Gate in Rogue One, where they have to. In space.
Yeah, could do something like that. Yeah. No, it sounds good. I've got fairly similar idea, more set in space than sort of Space Invaders. My first pitch, and main solid pitch, is a movie based off the game Gradius. Ben, do you know what Gradius is?
No, don't think I've ever heard.
All right, now I'm going to start I'll talk about the game a little bit. Probably people out there know about it, but see if you can see where I'm going with this. So it's Gradius. It's a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. Yeah, so it's not you're going up towards the screen. You're going from left to right, and obviously enemies appearing, and you're shooting them.
Oh no, I have seen it. I just looked it up. I've recognised pictures.
Yeah, classic shmup, as they call it. The first one was called first one in the series called Scrambled, was released in arcades in 1981. Then Gradius, the sequel, was released in 1985 in arcades. Came to the NES in 1986 and a couple of home computers and stuff as well. So the story is that there's a planet called Gradius. It's all nice and peaceful. That's where you live. And then all of a sudden, everything goes wrong. Loads of enemies try to invade, and the only way to stop them is to get to the enemies like big I don't know, space station or something, or whatever it is, and destroy their core. And then, that's it. You destroy them, you destroyed all the enemies. Happy days. Now, Gradius was the first ever game to use the Konami code, which is pretty much why I chose this as a basis for a movie. Up, up, down, down, left, right. Select start was the first one. And then it was BA after that, I think, or BA start or something like that. Yeah. So that is what Gradius is. It's quite well known. It's still, I think it's still going today. I'm not quite sure. So the plot would be you follow a group of pilots, sort of Top Gun-esque, couple of mates. They're all pilots. They sort of start off in the start of the film. They're like racing each other, and they're just carrying out sort of standard procedures and going about their day to day. And then the enemies invade, and they're sent on a mission to fight off the enemies and head towards their fortress. And then I would like the majority of this film set in space or in space stations, just literally all space-esque. So I've put down the starting scene in Revenge of the Sith, but for the whole movie, pretty much.
Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, that's my idea. So I put down as the first act, you're getting to know the squadron. They're having races, they're doing their day-to-day target practice and stuff like that. You get to know the characters a little bit better, what they're like, who's the joker of the squad, who's like the commander, blah, 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 blah. Second act of the film, they get trapped in a space battle and they need to escape. And their only escape route is off to a weird uncharted place, maybe like they go through a portal or something like that, but that's the only way they can get out of there. Like the space station's blowing up and everything, and they're surrounded on all fronts, etc. And then when they get to it, they're like, oh, what's this, what's coming up, something that's on our radar, or they hear like a voice saying, there's a secret and it'll help you turn the tides of war, blah 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 blah. And then they find a big meteor that mysteriously looks like an NES controller. Ooh. So they land on the meteor and they find a cave. They go into a cave. Again, all set in space. They've got their big, space helmets on, blah, blah, blah. Land on it, go into a cave, and they find a scroll. And they unload the scroll, Ben. And guess what it says? Up, up, down, down, left, right, select start. And they're like, what does this mean? So they put it in I don't know, let's say they go out onto the meteor and they're on, oh look, this looks like an NES controller. So they jump on the up button, then they jump on the down button, and then this big wave of blue energy goes off. I don't know, something like that. And they all, something appears, and they're like, "You've all been granted 30 lives," something like that. Which is obviously what the Konami codes did. It gave you extra lives to get through the game. Didn't make you invincible, just gave you extra lives. So they've been granted 30 lives. It's only say 5 people in the squadron, something like that. They've all been granted 30 lives. And then they get on their ships and the meteor vanishes and no one can ever use it again, type thing. And then I've put at the end they have a giant boss battle, because Shmups quite famous for that. You have these giant sort of spaceships or these giant bosses, and it's very it's really hectic space battles like Revenge of the Sith. And then you follow the squadron around, they get blown up, but then they reappear because they got 30 lives and stuff like that. And then the camera sort of pans around them all, and then they all sort of get into line, and then the camera sort of pans, and it's like a side-scrolling game, just like the games.
Right.
And then they fight the boss like that and save the day, basically. What do you think of the plot before going to cast and director?
Yeah, I like it. And I think the use of the very on-the-nose self-referential things like the code and the controller works. And I think if you have them as the big kind of build-up points, it works. So like in Sonic, I know you said you haven't seen it, but the moment when Jim Carrey gets the proper Dr. Eggman tash, it's that's the moment. So it'd be once you see the code, it'd be that's what we're waiting
that's
for.
it. This is the video game part of it. Yeah. So I put a few names down for cast. I've mainly based it off previous pilots in other films. I put down Tom Cruise, obviously, Top Gun, Oblivion, what's the other one he did? American Made, something like that. He's just like a regular pilot. He works for the Narcos or something like that. It's quite a good film, actually. Recommend that. Michelle Rodriguez is a pilot in Avatar, and just really good actress. I quite like stuff that she pops up into. So I put Val Kilmer because he is in Top Gun. I think he's getting on a bit, so he could maybe be like, the more experienced of the squad. Oscar Isaacs, of course, he's X-Wing pilot. Why wouldn't I choose him? He's brilliant. This might be a bit of a random one, but Jesse T. Usher, he's the guy who plays A-Train from The Boys. So he plays Will Smith's son in the new Independence Day film, I think. I think he does anyway. So I think he's a pilot in that. But just wanted to... I thought Will Smith is a bit... Like, you got Tom Cruise, you've already got Val Kilmer, putting Will Smith in it as well is a bit too many older people, and they'd be like, video games, nah, not my thing. But yeah, maybe him because he's a bit younger, he could maybe be like the young person in the squad, the new guy type thing. And I've also put Tom Hanks because he's Sully. Sully.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Any pilots you can think of, Ben, from movies? I struggled on this one. I couldn't really think of pilots.
There's that great film. The name escapes me now, but it's the one where like loads of people just vanish because they're not Christians, and that's got
really
Nicolas Cage as a pilot.
Oh, really?
It's one of the most terrible films.
Is that like the End of the World film or something like that? And it's got something to do with a number. Is it that one?
Well, it's like everyone who's like not a Christian just disappears, and then the ending's like really bleak. Like, oh, we've landed the plane, but now everything's on fire.
Is it called The Knowing? Is it something like that? Oh, I can't remember now.
It's
It's a typical Nicolas Cage movie. That's for sure.
He's a pilot in it.
Yeah,
What about our two friends, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen? They're pilots. Yeah,
I suppose they are. They're not really known for being pilots. Maybe Hayden Christensen more. Yeah, I think maybe he could work better. I mean, he's not retired as such, but he doesn't really do acting much anymore, does he? He's coming back for Vader, obviously, in the Kenobi series. Sure. Yeah. I struggled to think like well-known pilots. Obviously, you got Top Gun. That's a
Harrison
straight.
Ford.
Harrison, he would not do it. It's like based on a video game, not for me, type thing. Well, he did do Ender's Game, so I don't know, but directors. I've got 5 names. Tony Scott is the director of Top Gun, and he's not really done anything since I think it was Unstoppable and Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. I think he did them. I think that's him. He's not. Weirdly enough, he's not doing the Top Gun new film that's coming out. I thought he was, but he's not. George Lucas, obviously, he knows how to do a space battle sequence. Chuck him in there. I actually put down Joseph Kosinski. Now, I only found this out when I put his name down. I was like, I'll put him down for Oblivion, because Oblivion is very based in the clouds. It is a lot of space, not space. Well, yeah, there is a bit of space in it. He is actually directing the new Top Gun movie. And I didn't realise that when I put it down. And I sort of only realised it later on. I think he is anyway. Director of Tron Legacy, director of Oblivion. I think he'd be quite good. I put Patty Jenkins down because she's doing the new Star Wars Squadrons movie. And her dad's was a really famous pilot in the Air Force or something like that. So I think she'd be well up for it. The other one I put down was Michael Bay, because he knows how to do an action scene, and he's messed around with a couple of space scenes in Transformers. He's done. I mainly put him down because he done Pearl Harbor as well. So I was trying to think along action up in the sky sequences, and Michael Bay is he knows how to do that. So. What about you, Ben? Any directors you'd add to that?
So, is it based around like a team, like an ensemble thing, like in space?
Yeah, about 5 or so many people. Yeah.
So, So what about James Gunn? He likes an ensemble film.
He does. Yeah. Didn't think of him. Yeah, he does, and he likes the space. So he likes like a weird story. I think he'd be well up for a video game movie. 100%.
It's just like he did the Scooby Doo film. You know?
What? Did it? Oh yeah, he did, didn't
I
he?
said that last time.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Other people, I don't know, Russo brothers, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I think definitely for composer, you'd either have to get John Williams in, the big orchestral music, or get Daft Punk in. After watching Tron Legacy, I'm like Daft Punk all the way. The Chemical Brothers, they did a really cool soundtrack to Hannah, the movie from a couple of years ago. Yeah, so you could do anyone. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it for that one. What about your next one, Ben?
So I'll leave the big one till last then. So the next one, I haven't got much written down for this, but I think it's more of like a discussion we could have because it's quite an interesting game that was very much of its time and wouldn't come out now. And that is Duck Hunt, the movie. Right.
I was gonna say Duck. I didn't put it down as an idea, but when I was looking at retro games and it come up with Duck Hunt, I'd be like, that would be a cool movie. I don't know how they would do it. Yeah.
So Duck Hunt, obviously, you're shooting ducks out of the sky, and then a dog takes them. And the way that it's presented is very childrensy, and the way that I do it is probably like a children's sort of, not for children, but like for both, for everyone, like a bit like Sonic. But obviously, I don't know if I want shooting ducks in this. So I said you could take it either two ways.
You'd upset a lot of vegans, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. I said you could take it two ways. You could either go full on water ship down and make it look like it's children's, but just have loads of death in it. Do like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Yeah.
They've tried it with like Sausage Party is like an adult film, but with children's animation.
Yeah.
And it never really feels right.
No, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
So I said the other way they could take it is like a bromance sort of thing, where the dog realizes, no, the guy shooting the gun is the bad guy here, not the ducks.
Oh right, they team
up. The dog and the ducks team up to take out the farmer man or whatever he is.
Bit like Fox and the Hound, but dog and the duck. Dog and the duck. I like it. Yeah.
And I'm thinking you could have it so that, because I think the dog, in terms of like his animation, is like the most iconic thing with the game, in my opinion anyway. It's what I think of. So I think you could have the dog there as maybe like a CG sort of animation, sort of live action, like Looney Tunes film, or even like Sonic, because I think it works well with things that are already either animals or have some kind of human feature without taking it too far. Like Sonic, I think it works after the redesign, obviously.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
So I think you could have him sort of like live action animation.
Yeah.
And then teaming up with the ducks. Maybe it's all about like him, and at the start he's a happy boy and he likes his owner and he likes collecting these ducks' heads, but we don't show that on the screen. Just like hint to it, maybe. But then like maybe one day he goes out and there's like a duck there, and for some reason they become friends. Maybe the dog gets stuck in some like peril, and then the duck saves him. And then the dog's like, "Oh, you're good people. I'm going to defend you from the owner." And then they could devise some kind of scheme similar to like Chicken Run, which is obviously a Great Escape.
I was going to say Chicken Run, riff. Yeah.
So they make this plan, and then maybe at night the dog goes in and like disarms all the farmers' guns or whatever. I'd keep it very contained as well, so I keep it like to this farmland or whatever. It doesn't need to go out like in Sonic. They go to bloody San Francisco or something for no reason. So just keep it in this farmhouse, similar again to the Chicken Run. I'm again when I first done these, I hadn't really thought of director or cast or anything. I think for cast, if you're gonna get like a voice actor for the dog, again similar to like Pikachu, I think Ryan Reynolds is a solid choice. He's come in his own in voice acting now. Or if you wanted a more like traditional voice actor, you could get the guy's name escapes me, but the guy that plays Sonic, who used to do
Ben
some like
Schwartz.
that's the one. Who used
Mm.
to do like some live action stuff, but now it's mainly voices. Or anyone else with like a recognizable voice. But I think like some playful kind of voice for this dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I I
Farmer.
I think you could do it another way, and you could have Duck Hunt. Starts off, just shooting ducks, like you're hunting. No. Then the ducks become really sentient, and it turns into a horror movie. And only the dog survives, maybe because just he was the one that he was the one that brought the ducks to, I don't know, the injured ducks back to each other and stuff like that. I don't know. That was just my idea. Yeah, you could make it sort of Chicken Run-esque. Chicken Run. It's a bit creepy, that film, isn't it? Like, I just sort of was thinking about Chicken Run. I was like, that was a bloody horrible film to watch as a kid. But yeah, nonetheless.
It's just Great Escape, isn't it? But with chickens.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I think that would work quite well. I don't know. Yeah, it could work like sort of maybe classic animation or even CG. Yeah, would work quite well.
I was thinking it could just be a full-on animation, and I was thinking as well in terms of like the farmer, because obviously you play as them in the game.
Yeah,
you could do a thing like Tom and Jerry, like in the cartoons, where you never see above.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, and it works. It does work quite well as well. You just need someone's legs. Yeah, it would be cool. A bit of a different one. Definitely, would be definitely interesting seeing how that would turn out. Yeah, I quite like that one. Anything else you want to add, or shall I give my next one?
I guess keep it vibrant as well, because the game's got very rich greens and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's sort of one of the first home video games that looked like a cartoon. I mean, back when you're only working with like certain pixels, it was hard to sort of make a nice cartoonish art style, and they've definitely managed to pull that off back on the NES. So so my next one is more of an idea. I would like a Contra movie. Also had a Konami code, but I'm not going to go into that. I was thinking about doing sort of Gradius and Contra set in the same universe, Konami code. No, I would like a Contra movie directed by the man himself, Guillermo del Toro. No, said that wrong. Guillermo del Toro.
Spanish guy that makes the fantasy films.
Yeah, he makes big monsters. Now, if you've never played Contra, so Contra was released in 1987, and it's a side-scrolling run and gun. So it's a little bit like a shmup. You got a lot of enemies, you do a lot of shooting, but it's platforming. Yeah, so you have to like sort of jump and like hang, and you get different power-ups, you get different weapons, a lot like a shmup. But you actually control the characters. Now, Ben, do you know Contra very well?
Not really.
Right, so if you don't know Contra very well, I would just say that the box art, the cover, the game came in. It is straight up Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sly Stallone, and a xenomorph in between them. Like they just went, we'll take a bit of Predator, we'll take Sly Stallone, and we'll just put Alien in there as well. They just sprinkled a little bit of Alien in there. So the plot is set in a distant future. This is in the game. This is my plot. Don't really care. The plot is it's set in a distant future. An evil group called the Red Falcon Organization set a new base near New Zealand to take over the world, and the Contra group are set in to save the day. They use guerrilla tactics. There's only 2 characters. You play multiplayer, so there's only 2 characters, and you go in and save the day. So my main thing was that it's 2 characters. It's always the best way to play it was multiplayer, right? So I would like to follow 2 main characters, a bit like a buddy cop movie, but they're going in to sort of save the day. It starts out like a normal war movie, and and just literally get straight into the action. Boom. They're there, they're taking them out, they're gunning everyone down, they're sort of invincible, you know, they're not wearing any armor at all, they're just wearing vest tops and like got machine guns, like proper classic 80s Predator, you know, Commando sort of Arnie looking characters. They get a bit further into the base, and you know, they think they're just shooting normal people, right? They just think, you know, it's like, you know, nothing's happening at all. They're, you know, and they're making quips at each other, you know, they're best mates, blah blah blah. And then they sort of get into the base a bit more, and they start seeing these weird looking creatures. And now, from memory, in Contra, I don't know if it's all the games, or if it's only some of them. But there's these big, like, gross alien bosses. Especially, I played through Contra 3, the Alien Wars on SNES, and yeah, the bosses are obviously really, really difficult, but they take up the whole screen. Yeah, they take up the whole screen. They're massive. You only sort of see a portion of them. You don't even see the whole thing. So that's what made me think Guillermo del Toro, said it right that time, as the director. You know, he's done Pacific Rim. He's done obviously it's Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. He knows monsters, yeah. He knows aliens, but he knows how to do them bigger as well. And I don't think, you know, yeah, he did Hellboy, but I would like to see him do a war movie, and then it's these big monsters, yeah. I mean, Hellboy, sort of like that. It's a superhero-ish movie, isn't it? It's based on the comics.
Well, Pan's Labyrinth technically is about the Spanish Civil War. Like,
oh, is it?
But set in like the child's imagination.
Yeah. So I would like to see him take on a war movie, and it's a bit of a buddy cop movie as well. You know, just so the two people, they sort of have to work together. You know, and they would realise that each monster they have to take down is a bit like a puzzle they have to solve, and you know, it's very video game movie-esque, where they're going up against like mid-tier bosses and then a big boss at the end, and you know, maybe they give their life at the end, but you don't see if they survive or not. They sort of leave it on a cliffhanger. Feature lots of different weapons and power-ups that they collect. You know, I think one of them was like a gun that shoots in 3 directions. I think one of them was like a flamethrower in the games. So yeah, feature all these different things that they can pick up from the enemies and stuff like that. Yeah, and just really odd, gross looking, really dark movie, but then it's a buddy cop comedy type thing. I think that would be a weird take on it, that's also an action war movie. So yeah, I'm mixing a lot of different genres there, but yeah, definitely Guillermo del Toro attached to it. What do you reckon, Ben? Anything to add?
I think, as you say, with like Hellboy and stuff, I think he'd be up for doing something that's based on another property. He's also doing Pinocchio, which I think comes out this year.
Oh,
well.
Yeah, that could be good.
I think he was tied to the Blade trilogy in some way as well.
Oh, was he?
And the Hobbit trilogy.
Was he?
So I think he, I think he was like producer or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Smaug's very threatening in that, in the second movie. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I think if you presented him with this very fantastical concept, he'd go with it. Yeah. I think it would work quite well. I've only got so I sort of wanted to go. I've only got 4 people down as cast, and I've sort of separated them, so 2 and 2. So I was thinking, you know, sort of big burly men, but with a bit of comedy. Now, it made me think of Predator, where you've got Arnie Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers. Yeah, they're best. Like, you know, they do that weird handshake. Yeah. It's like an arm wrestle. I don't know. So I'm thinking them. Now, I thought Chris Hemsworth and Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan could be the very serious, you know, sort of like worried about things, and Chris Hemsworth could be the comedy relief. They're quite obviously well built, and you know, could definitely
work together, and they've also got a lot of star power that they could hold the film on their own. You don't really need any other, maybe someone talking on the intercom or something like that, as other characters. Maybe like a big bad behind it all as an evil guy. I don't know. So I think they would work together really well. And we've not. Have they been in a film together? I don't think they actually have. I'm not sure, but obviously they both appear in Marvel, didn't they? So the other one I would say, and I don't know why I thought of it, but Scott Eastwood and John Boyega. Now John Boyega is in the newer Pacific Rim film, and I think he's quite well built, and he's quite, he's not 7 foot tall and well built, but he's quite well built. And Scott Eastwood doesn't really do a lot, and he's not really been done a lot of justice. And I think that maybe, having these multiple genres in this film could really sort of show off. I think he was a bit up and coming for a while, and then you never hear from him now. And I think his acting performance is quite good in a lot of films that he's in, but I don't think he's really had a big break, to be honest. So I think Scott Eastwood and John Boyega, Scott being the serious type this time, and John Boyega being the comedy relief. Like, he's very comedic in a lot of the Star Wars movies, especially The Force Awakens, when he won't let go of Rey's hand. I just crack up every time at that. I think he's brilliant. But yeah, I think, both those, Scott Boyega, Scott Eastwood and John Boyega, they need to be in more things. I want to see him in more things. And John Boyega is an absolutely amazing actor, and I would put him in all my films if I was a bloody director. But there you go. So, what do you reckon, Ben? Any cast ideas for you?
What about the dynamic duo of The Rock and Kevin Hart?
Oh yeah, that would work amazing. Kevin Hart being the serious one and The Rock being the comedy relief. That would be wicked. What's that film they've done? I can't remember what it was now. They've done loads together, but the one where the Rock plays this big dumb character that won't leave Kevin Hart alone or something like that. And they jump out a building and everything, and Kevin Hart's just having a mental breakdown the entire way through and stuff. There you go. That's your buddy cop movie, and just bring that over into it. Yeah. Any others you can think of? I'm just trying to think of people that would work really well together that haven't really had the chance.
Yeah, together. I was thinking like when you said big burly men who do comedic roles.
Yeah.
The first name I thought of was Big Dave Bautista.
Yeah, definitely.
But in terms of like duos,
I think maybe, and this is going to sound a bit weird, they're not that well built, but they work really well together. Michael Pena and Paul Rudd, like, they work really well together in the Ant-Man films. They could be very sort of serious at times, and they can be very, comedic at times as well. I think they would be quite well together as well. But again, they're not really that sort of muscly. Just put Terry Crews in it. Just have him as the main character. Terry Crews and I don't know, and someone else.
Andy Samberg.
Well, he's not built up, is he? But yeah.
No, but the chemistry.
Yeah. Maybe like Terry Crews and Kit Harington. That would be quite weird. Maybe something like that. A British guy and an American guy, but they're like, something like that. I don't know what made me think of that. It's just weird, but so that's sort of it for my two main pitches. My other one's a bit of a throwaway pitch, but I'll listen. Let's go over your one, Ben.
Yes. All right. So I was thinking, I want to do one which is a classic, recognizable. Everyone will know it. Similar to, like, everyone knows who Sonic is, and etc. So someone went through were Pac-Man, but I struggled. I couldn't really think.
Yeah, see, I thought, now, like, this isn't a pitch, but I thought maybe Miss Pac-Man died, she's a widow, and she's being hunted by these 4 ghosts. And there may be people that she's known in the past and stuff like that. And, it's a bit of a horror movie, something like that. That's all I could think of for Pac-Man, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I just struggled in giving him, a reasonable length narrative. Another one was Pong, and I really wanted to get one for Pong, and I just couldn't come up with something that would sustain. So eventually, I went with Tetris the movie.
So yeah, I think this is that. Hang on, are they making a Tetris movie?
Well, I did some research. I couldn't find anything.
I think they're making a Tetris movie, and I think it's going to be animated by Illumination, the guys behind the Minions films. Could be wrong. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, when I was doing it, I couldn't find anything. So I guess the main sort of relatable aspect would be Wreck-It Ralph. But the way I've had it is that the eye blocks, right, the long pieces, are hailed as the top dogs, right? So this film kind of takes place similar to Wreck-It Ralph, like it takes place half inside the game and then half like in the arcade. And like the blocks are sentient inside the game, but then you can't see that in the arcade. So the I blocks are the top dogs, right? And the S blocks are down in the fodder group, right? They're the least popular blocks. And the S blocks, they're left out of the parties. They don't get invited to anything. Everyone just wants to hear about the I blocks. So they eventually get really depressed and they leave the game, right? Similar to how Wreck-It Ralph leaves his game because he don't want to be seen as the bad guy all the time. But not that they go to some other game like Wreck-It Ralph. I think that's too on the nose. So they leave the game. But now, when people come to in that arcade to play Tetris, it's unplayable. They can't play it because there's no S blocks in there, right? And the S blocks are going round and they're struggling to find somewhere else to live. So we've got this dynamic of this one can't live without this one and vice versa. And then the blocks inside the game that are left inside the game, they come to realise that all the blocks are needed to play the game. So they all band together. And the S blocks reluctantly come back to the game, but deep down they know that it's their real home. And then the S blocks come back, and then this links onto a little subplot, which I'll come back to in a second. But then the S blocks are then used to crown a new Tetris world champion at the end of the film. And now the blocks are seen as equal, and they're all important and like a community, and your classic sort of theme within a film. And then the subplot of having this like Tetris World Cup going on. So this would take place like in the real world. I think this would be like fully animation, like Wreck-It Ralph. But you have the subplot of the current world champion that loses at the end of the film is just an arse, right? So he's a bit like Peter Dinklage in Pixels, where he's playing real life Billy Mitchell, who they made a documentary about called The King of Kong, which I think I watched. And
he uses like cheats in the game as well, doesn't he? He uses like alleyways and stuff, and funny,
But the whole time he's like, "Look at me, like I'm the best," right? Similar like how Peter Dinklage does. And then there's like someone that's coming up, and maybe it's like a little kid or something, who's like he's really good, and he's getting them all, and then Peter Dinklage character does something wrong, messes up, and he's out of the game. And then there's a bit where he just needs one line, and then that S block comes and saves the day and wins him the world championship.
Yeah, wicked. I think it would work really well as like a like a commentary on obviously the divisiveness of different classes. What's the word? Obviously you got like upper class, lower class, poverty, all that sort of stuff. I think it would work. There's a good like commentary on that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was like the classic narrative theme I was going for. And like in Wreck-It Ralph, when he says the like the bad guy club motto, and he says, "I'm bad and that's good. I'll never be good and that's not bad." And that's the climactic speech. I'd something similar to that in here when the S block's coming down. There's no one I'd rather be than me. It's great.
God damn those S blocks in Tetris. Side. There is, I did just look it up. There is a Tetris film being made, and it's actually filming at the moment. But I think it's set in the Civil War, and it's about some like trying to claim the ownership of Tetris. It's featuring Taron Egerton or Egerton. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. But it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not being made by the guys who made Despicable Me. I thought it was. Maybe I was thinking of something else. I don't know. Yeah, I think what would be cool is when they're looking for different games, they go to like different puzzle games, and you can see them like trying to fit in like Picross and Puyo Puyo and like, because there's quite a good game called Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is a mixture of Puyo Puyo and Picross, and like maybe just trying to see them sort of fit in. They're like, no, you can't live here. We just teamed up once and stuff like that, or like you see them maybe playing. Is it Buster Move? Oh, I used to love Buster Move, where you're shooting the balls at the color balls, and you got to match and match the colors, and they pop, and you just shoot this S block, and it just like barges everything up, and no one can get to the blocks and stuff like that. Bit like in Wreck-It Ralph when I think it's the King, he jumps to all these different games and stuff, and they're like, what's this and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's the only thing I was struggling with, because I thought it would be far too like on the nose to Wreck-It Ralph, so I didn't really know where else to take them.
No, I would enjoy that, and and obviously there's like a deeper narrative to it as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but I've got director for this. So Wreck-It Ralph's obviously great, right? Disney film.
Yeah.
But Pixar does much better emotional, heartfelt kind of things on a more regular basis. Not to say that Disney can't, but Pete Docter, who directed Inside Out and Soul in 2020, he could do it. I think any of them could do it, honestly. John Lasseter, who did Toy Story, any of those Pixar directors.
Brad Bird.
Yeah, Incredibles.
Beyond the Incredibles,
so just have it be made by Pixar.
Yeah, easy. You don't really even need to pick a director, because the animation team behind Pixar are just so good at what they do.
And they all sort of work on each other's films anyway, don't they?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are sort of have bled over into Walt Disney Animation now. Which obviously are making like Big Hero 6 and Wreck-It Ralph. I think a few of them a couple of years ago, maybe before the merger, I think a few of them left and started their own company. Now I don't know if that is Illumination. I can't remember. One of the big companies, I think it might even be DreamWorks, is like ex-Pixar animators that went off and made their own one. I can't remember if it was DreamWorks or if it was Illumination or something like that, or I think Illumination is like ex DreamWorks people. I'm not sure. They all sort of work for each other. I did just want to mention actually that the guys behind the Ice Age films, they got shut down like this week or like this month. Recently. Shame, but I'm sure they'll find work. I'm sure that I hope they do anyway. I don't know if they just got dissolved into the company or if they just got shut down completely, because it was owned by Fox, wasn't it? And Disney shut them down, so that they might say, look, we're shutting your studio, but you can work for Pixar. But I think they said that if they did, they'd have to travel overseas or something stupid like that. They couldn't just work from there. They'd have to move or something. So I don't know. But
in terms of like animation, you could have like any animators really. I was thinking more in terms of like a screenplay, have it be done by the more well-known directors, because that's where you get your heartfelt sort of themes from.
Yeah, definitely. Anything you want to add? Cast
I haven't really thought about, again, because it'd mainly just be your classic kind of voice actors. Get someone in big for your big main role like they did for Soul.
I think a strong female-led like cast could work quite well, and sort of relate to a little bit like feminism and stuff like that. I think maybe not all female, but like a female lead possibly that could work quite well, and and even show that even though the S blocks are coming out of society, there's still a struggle in between the S blocks. I think there's two. Is it just the one S block, or is there two different inversions of it, and one can be male, one can be female, or something like that?
Well, I did some research into this, right? Because I went on like a ranking website to see which block is ranked as the worst, and obviously the I block is at the top.
Yeah.
And then Well, actually, they put the T block at the top, but I think it's more accepted that the I block is what gets you your Tetris.
Yeah,
But then underneath that is the L block and the J block, right? And then
J
underneath that
block. Oh yeah.
is the Z block, then the S
The
block
S
at the
block.
bottom.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So you could even make that sort of like the S block and the Z block have their own struggles. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Anything else you want to add, or shall I just give my last pitch quite quickly? It's just a quick one.
I don't think so.
Okay, so my last one, I was just sort of searching through, and I was like, what would be a good story to base a movie off of? But this one really stood out to me is Chrono Trigger. Do you know what Chrono Trigger is, Ben?
Nope.
So it's a RPG, sort of turn-based RPG, developed by SquareSoft that went on and merged with Enix to become Square Enix. They obviously made the Final Fantasy games, and then they made this game, which is very Final Fantasy-esque, but it's not set in that universe at all. It's a time-traveling RPG where you sort of visit distant past. There's like knights and kings and queens, and then you visit the future, and it's sort of post-apocalyptic and stuff like that, all these different time periods. But the thing that I always brings me to this game, and I haven't really played it all the way through, I must be honest, I don't really know the story or anything like that, but it's always caught my eye because it is the art style is done by Akira Toriyama, the guy behind Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, all those sort of that art style. Really big spikes on the spiky hair and stuff like that. Now, yes, I was sort of like, it is not like people say it's probably the best game on the SNES type thing as well. So that's sort of why I chose it. It's very story based. So yeah, just a time traveling romp. You got to save the world, blah blah blah. Very sort of basic. You're following your squad. Your main character's this guy with red hair, I think. Anyway, teams up with people on the way. They become part of his team. I think it would probably work best as an anime-esque film. I think if you try and go live action with it, wouldn't really work. And I think if you are going anime-esque, you need to go with the big anime voices like Sean Shamel, and who's the guy that voices Vegeta? Chris something, I think. Anyway, he does Vegeta, Piccolo, the guy from My Hero Academia, Chris Sabat, I think his name is. I think gonna get anime fans like writing into me now. But yeah, like I think I'm just surprised that it hasn't been adapted, since the game, really. It sort of had like an anime-esque trailer, I think, at the time, or like for the re-release or something like that. But I don't think it's ever been done as a series. I don't think that it got a sequel on the PlayStation 1 called Chrono Cross. But I think it would work quite well as maybe a standalone movie or even an anime series. But I just think it would be a good way to get people sort of reinterested in it, and then maybe remaster the game and bring it out at the same time. That could be quite well. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting premise, and it's such a well-renowned game that not a lot has been done with it that I know of anyway. I think if they were to go live action, someone like Joseph Gordon-Levitt would be a good main character, or someone sort of a bit older but's got a really young face. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And JGL, I like JGL a lot, and I think he's a great actor. Maybe put him in more things. There you go. Yeah, so that's all I could really think of. What do you reckon, Ben?
Yeah, I think animation or anime style would be a good shout.
Yeah.
I think where video game movies fall is when they try and take it like one for one to live action, or try and do this weird adaptation.
Yeah.
In a way that Sonic doesn't try to do, right?
And
or
Super Mario Brothers did.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And even like Pikachu, it takes it, but it doesn't make it like one for one live action because it puts it in this neon cyberpunky world.
Yeah.
So I think if you're gonna, do it live action, it needs to be very much like don't try and turn it into something that looks more real. I don't want to see some weird Goomba man in it. If you're going to
Yeah.
put a Goomba in it, make it look like a mushroom.
There was this weird Final Fantasy fully CGI'd movie that came out, I don't know, about 15 years ago, something like that. And I think it was just called Final Fantasy. And I don't know if it was based off any of the games. It was like Final Fantasy Spirit something or something like that. And I don't know if it was based off any of the games or not. I could be wrong, but it was just like just a bog standard sort of sci-fi movie, and it just didn't really stand out at all. And like if they had obviously done it in an like anime style, which obviously Final Fantasy has, that it probably would have done better. Right, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. This is what it's called, and the voice cast, because it's all animated. They're not. I don't think there's any Japanese. There probably is a Japanese version, but I think it was made for America. Alec Baldwin, Steve Buscemi, and Ving Rhames. It's not very Japanese-esque at all, is it? You got Donald Sutherland in there as well. James Wood, Keith David, really good talent. But yeah, it was weird, man. Don't watch that. Don't watch that movie. I didn't enjoy it at all. But yeah, I think if they made it sort of classic anime style. Now in anime nowadays, they sort of have this blend between 2D and 3D, and it looks really nice. But I think they could sort of bring it back to the roots of pure 2D animation. Because obviously it's a retro game, so have that sort of retro style. Maybe when they travel into the future, it's 3D CG. When they travel into the past, it's like old-timey cartoons. Something like that could work quite well. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Maybe have the present day as just like, sort of anime from 10 years ago. So I'll say 10 years ago. 10 years ago is like nothing nowadays. 10, 15 years ago anyway. And then like they travel back in time. It's like sort of the anime from the 80s, and then where it's not a lot moves apart from the characters, and then you travel forward and it's very CGI-esque and stuff like that. So yeah, that's sort of my last idea. Did you want to add anything, Ben, or shall we wrap it up?
I guess these older video game movies are starting to actually be good now.
Yeah,
with Pikachu, Sonic. So
yeah,
maybe it's time.
And I think the reason retro movies can work quite well is obviously back in the arcade games and even some of the NES games, the story wasn't the main grab. It was the gameplay and the difficulty of it. So, they can really go weird with the story sometimes. And even though, all right, not Super Mario Brothers weird, not Cyberpunk, but, Blade Runner, but Mario. But more, just these odd stories, and it would be different if you're adapting an old JRPG, because it is, that is all story. But something like Contra, something like Grady, something like Space Invaders, you should sort of, if you write a good story with it, get people, you get people into it with the action sequences, but you write a good story behind it, it can really, really work. So, yeah, give us more. There are definitely more video game movies up and coming, and more movie video games are being made, such as Indiana Jones and more Star Wars games as well. So yeah, do you think that'll do it, Ben?
Yeah, and everyone's looking forward to Jared Leto Tron 3. So
yeah, apart from me. Well, thank you for listening. Please be sure to leave us a rating wherever you listen to us. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and much more. I should have said this at the top. I'll probably put it in, but let everyone know we've got a YouTube channel now. I'm putting just our pitches up on YouTube. So if you miss our podcast, or you don't have the time to listen to the full podcast, or you don't want to download a podcasting app, totally understand. You can find us on YouTube. Just search Play Movies, Watch Games, Pitchcast. And I'm trying to get these past episodes up there, and then it'll be, once a week, maybe a couple of days later than the actual podcast. So you can find us there as well. If you want to send us a question or a recommendation for a topic, just send us an email to playwatchpitchcast@gmail.com. Any sort of question, topics, always more than welcome here. So it's playwatchpitchcast@gmail.com. If you want to see any updates on our podcast on social media, you can find us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/playmovieswatchgames, or you can find us on Twitter @playwatchpitch.